Good afternoon or evening, everybody, and welcome back to another tropical forecast by Adrian with the forecast. And we have another big update on the tropics here. So continue to watch out tropics from Larry as it's likely to become a major hurricane in the North Atlantic and most likely stay as a fish storm at the sea. As well, keeping a close eye here on the newly formed Invest 91L across portions of the Western Caribbean. Keep a very close eye on portions there, the Bay of Campeche, and as well overall off the Mexican peninsula for maybe some gradual development. As well, Ida's now post-tropical and bringing in some severe weather across portions of the Northeast as well, bringing in some overall significant flooding, and as well, Kate remains as a tropical depression. But obviously, the main topic in this video is going to be tropics from Kate, or tropics from Larry, sorry, tropics from Larry, as it is most likely going to become a very strong system, but remaining out to sea, like I have mentioned throughout a few days. Likely to be maybe like a I say epsilon type system, maybe even a Teddy type system. But I'm gonna stick with an epsilon type comparison because obviously Teddy was 140 miles an hour, but I believe the peak for Larry is 120. But again, the 5 o'clock advisory I believe just came out. Let's see what the 5 o'clock advisory has to say here. But yeah, I don't have anything with the new 5 o'clock advisory as of now here. But 70 miles an hour is what Larry is right now. So this thing's really getting some good strength here actually, and this will be the first time we get a good, nice MDR system strengthening this fast in a while here. Typically, we've seen past few years, really that invest kind of just take a while and they don't form till all the way over here. But this one's actually may become a hurricane before even crossing the central MDR. This is actually a rather early named tropical storm here. Obviously, typically they really form a lot over here. I mean, or maybe depression wise here, maybe storm here wise over here. But we already have a storm just within maybe 300, 400 miles from the actual African coast. So typically, it's definitely interesting. We have not really had a system form like this since really maybe 2017. I mean, I don't want to say it's going to be 2017 type storm. Obviously, it's not going to be Maria, Jose, or Harvey, or Irma. It's going to obviously be out to sea. But as I said, we really haven't had anything MDR wise like this since 2017, really. 991 millibar pressure wise as well. So rather good pressure within this actual system as well. It's really, really dropping pressure. And it's just most likely will rapidly intensify with the next 24 hours or so, become a hurricane very, very soon here. I wouldn't doubt if it becomes a hurricane before the end of today. And it does have a really good looking low pressure and overall really good inner core, which I'll be showing rather soon here. Looks like it's trying to have a developing eye as well. Yeah, surprisingly, it is trying to have a developing eye. So let's actually look at the actual discussion. So let's get a look at here. Afternoon satellite imagery indicates that layer continues to become better organized with visible imagery hinting at I formation and partial SSM or IS overpass adjusting at 37 basically, showing convective rings developing across the center. So getting overall good, overall decent inner core developing here. The initial intensity is increased to 60 knots, obviously at right now, which is a 30 knot increase since the time yesterday, satisfying 24-hour definition of rapid intensification. So likely watching out for an RRI. So with a general westward motion for 24 to 36 hours, followed by a turn north to the west northwest, and by 96 to 120 hours, a turn to the northwest. The spread in this track after 36 hours has decreased a little in the latest model runs. Conditions appear favorable for additional rapid intensification during the next 36 to 48 hours. So again, it's going to be a rather long, conducive environment here. This thing could obviously become a rather major hurricane very soon here. And the intensity forecast now calls for Larry to become a hurricane in less than 12 hours. Wouldn't that becomes a hurricane by 11 o'clock tonight, considering what it looks like? Or I think they may push until it actually gets a strong few convection bursts by general maximum tonight, and then push it to a hurricane by either 2 or 5 in the morning. Given the current trend, this part of the intensity forecast could be conservative, so they're even saying that even the forecast they have now could still be conservative. Larry is expected to encounter somewhat increased shear, however, just have an overall good upper level anticyclone at this point. After 96 hours, moderate shear is forecast to continue, but the cyclone is expected to move into a more moist air mass and over, increasing sea surface temperatures. But yeah, that's definitely what we're looking at here. Again, as well looking at overall, there is a good chance that Larry will have fluctuations in intensity after it becomes a major hurricane due to eyeball replacement cycle. So again, like we saw with Ida just before landfall. But yeah, they still do have a 120-mile-an-hour peak here, so getting it to 80 miles an hour by the next 12 hours. Like I just said, most likely will be a hurricane by either 11 o'clock tonight or 2 in the morning, and then getting it to a major hurricane by 48 hours, and then a rather good category 2 at 120 miles an hour within the next 3 days or so. And now, as we say that, the 5 o'clock advisory comes out, and Kate is now post-tropical as well. So no more Kate. AOI is still at 30-30. So yeah, that's 5 o'clock for you guys. It's now Kate is now a post-tropical depression. So obviously here's a very old look at this morning's A-scan. I know it's really old, and obviously it's definitely not a good resource to use right now. I just want to show you guys what the structure looked like this morning here. So obviously the structure is a lot, maybe twice as better as it was this morning. But that's exactly why I'm showing this, to show you guys how much it's progressed since this morning to what it is now. So here's the overall A-scat pass here, and here's the overall winds on obviously tropical storm Larry. So there's the actual low pressure itself, as well as they obviously last time we did get this A-scat this morning, they were producing 40 knots, which is basically around 45-ish miles an hour. You can guys see a really good inner core here, that really strong southwesterlies. Then you kind of gain those as well. Then southeasterlies, and then really seeing as well some good overall inner core rotation here in vorticity within this low pressure itself. Low pressure is still a little bit elongated, really. However, it's really got a nice eastern quadrant developing here, and as well overall it's like a developing eye wall within this overall core. And then you can kind of see as well getting some, obviously some more, I guess, dipping down into some northerlies, and then seeing as well as some more southwesterlies. So overall, as well as we continue to see southwesterlies, obviously that will continue to show this wrapping up this system, as well as most likely already pretty good overall, fully closed. Obviously this was just it's more this morning here. However, I do want to show you guys here. Let's get now on weather nerds. Oops, that's a pretty big I expect that to be a big difference here within the actual screens, but I have to completely shift it. So here's like your early this morning here, or it's not early this morning, sorry, earlier today, this afternoon, of a look here of tropical storm Larry. And this thing looks like an absolute beauty here. I mean, at this point, it looks like a really good hurricane. But again, this is not a hurricane, and it probably won't be a hurricane for the next maybe 2 or 3-ish advisories, most likely. So there's actually a really good looking eye here. The thing is, that was most likely small, dry slots, or at least trying to develop an eye, because earlier on, we had a really large area, just really no convection at all, but it was definitely not an eye. But this one actually looks like a pretty overall eye, and I would definitely call this an eye, considering it's closed off moisture bowl, as well as seeing some overall good outflow boundaries here. Really good outflow, as well as developing upper level anticyclone through stretching cirrus clouds and cumulates, kind of really just stretching out in a divergent clockwise flow around this system. So overall, it looks like a really good system, though. Don't get me wrong. There you can kind of see the overall, there's the overall kind of, I guess, cirrus is stretching out there, and there you see obviously that counterclockwise flow, and there's the low pressure itself. So it actually looks like a beautiful system. However, as we continue to go on, the convection bursts to the northeast are really eating up that so-called eye with area of no convection, really. I mean, it was really clear, though. It's not like it was like a little small, like little a dip in very little convection. There's a whole area of just no cloud cover at all. So it's very strange here. I definitely, obviously, we've had tropical storms that have had eyes before, but this one is definitely a really, really good looking one, as obviously it has basically no cloud cover within it, actually. So it's pretty, really odd what we saw with this. It's really, really odd, obviously, and it's a really decent looking eye there. However, again, it looks like it's getting eaten up here by that convection burst. However, again, it's still a really looking good, still a good looking storm here. Let's go look at water vapor, though. But yeah. So here's like a water vapor. When I was saying earlier on how it was kind of really elongated, the area of really not much convection, is because there was actually some dry air getting in within the system. Here we saw some good amount of inflow, kind of really coming in some dry air, and that's exactly why we had very little water vapor across much of the system earlier on. And that's why we kind of had that developing looking eye shape, which is why I said it was more of a dry slot. However, as we continue to go on here, this actually kind of closed off decent amount here. You can kind of see it really closed off that really strong counterclockwise flow. There you kind of see it developing central dense overcast, basically. But overall, it kind of really looked really good at a point here. So it looked like it was kind of an eye right here, because it actually closed off that dry air. There's obviously a really good looking moisture bubble here with a really good amount of initiation in the southwest quadrant, but as well as some decent as well initiation going on within the eastern quadrant. So I would consider it maybe a wannabe eye, but I would definitely not call it an eye, as it is obviously with the next few runs here we see it's really falling apart, and It definitely does not have a really good closed, really, I guess, moisture bubble just yet, as it's really kind of like there is some dry air trying to get in within the system right now. So overall, keeping a really close eye on this system. However, it looks like it's not going to be like an eye. And obviously, there is some dry air getting into it right now. Some strong inflow, and that moisture bubble is trying to, I guess, save itself. However, there's still again a decent amount of dry air trying to pose a threat towards the system. So here's now look here at the overall 5-day tropical weather outlook, and this is actually, I'm not sure why it says 8 p.m. or I thought it said 8 p.m. Central or Eastern at first, and I was like, what? But yeah, here's the overall track here. Again, expecting a major hurricane out to sea system. We are going to keep a close eye on Bermuda. It could be like a very similar track here to like Epsilon or Paulette, where it gets really, really close to Bermuda. Actually, I do believe that actually a hurricane, I don't know which one actually hits Bermuda. I know one of those three actually hit Bermuda. I think it was actually, it might have been, I think Teddy actually hit Bermuda dead on. So I think it was Teddy was the one that actually hit Bermuda, while I think Paulette and Epsilon were obviously the ones that kind of just missed Bermuda. Yeah, I think Epsilon actually, I think also Epsilon might have just hit Bermuda as well. I'm not really 100% sure. Again, I'm not 100% sure. I think maybe even Paulette might have hit Bermuda. I think so. Again, I'm not really 100% sure. However, either way, I think it's going to be very similar to these storms where they get very, very close to not maybe even a lamp off for Bermuda. I would not rule the possibility for a lamp off for Bermuda. However, again, depending on the range and overall steering, it may just turn right before getting close to Bermuda. Again, just depending on the Canadian ridge up there and overall the Bermuda high and all that strength and positioning ever again. Going to get to 120 miles an hour by Monday. So it's going to be obviously a long track storm. But thankfully, due to the ridge up here, it's steering it away from the Lesser Antilles. And obviously, thankfully, this system's rather strong and close to the actual southwest southerlies coming from, or I guess the easterlies trade winds from the Bermuda High. So thankfully, that's how it is now. Because if not, it would definitely hit dead on the Lesser Antilles. So here's a look at the overall actual GEFS tracks and minimal center pressure. And they continue to drop the pressure now. Earlier on, it was 985, then it got to 974, I think, and now it's 968 millibars. And obviously, a lot of the members now are getting a sub 970, actually. A ton of members. I mean, like, maybe over a dozen are showing, at least over a dozen members are getting this below 970 millibars. So here's the overall medium, the overall median. The black line is the median, kind of the average of all those members. You can kind of see within 72 hours, they went at 979, at 96, 976, then really dropping to 968. But overall, it's going to be dropping a good amount within the next now and the next 72 hours. If this were to verify, it'll really drop a good amount within alone just 24 hours. Again, it's still already 991, and 12Z models are pretty behind on the system considering how much it's really dropped in pressure. But here's now a look at the overall intensity guidance. You can kind of see, obviously, already tropical storm likely to become a hurricane within 12 hours, and then maybe become a category 2 within 24 hours, and a category 3 within maybe 36 hours. It's going to really go in a pretty big strengthening phase. And again, a ton of the models now, I mean, like 90% of them getting actually to a category 3, but kind of a low end to a middle end. And surprisingly, only 4 want to get to a category 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Looks like another 5th is trying to get it to a category 4. But considering how many are getting this to a category 3, I'm kind of shocked that only 4 are getting to a category 4, considering how a lot of models, I mean, not even the H-Warp is getting it that strong here, but the COT2 is getting it to a category 5 and 150 knots, which I believe is around 180-ish miles an hour, which would be very similar to Irma strength and very stronger than Katrina, and obviously very close to Michael strength, all that good stuff. So that's obviously not going to happen though. Let's take a look at the overall track, and obviously not much really worry about track wise, at least for a while. The only time we'll actually have to really consider the track deeply is going to be once it actually gets closer to Bermuda. But as of now, no threats to land, but keeping an eye on Bermuda. So here's now look at the overall SSTs here, and obviously SSTs are quite conducive for its basically whole track here if it kind of does what they were it was gonna do. So here's now we look here at basically Larry's basically right here within 28 to 28.5 degrees Celsius in water, and that's gonna kind of slowly go like this. Basically, it's either gonna go like that most likely, or it's gonna get like this. And either way, it's gonna go into some very warm waters in the central and portions of the western Atlantic with some overall good waters of 28.5 degrees Celsius to 29 degrees Celsius. Should not be a problem. Obviously, water-wise, it's pretty conducive. So let's now get a look here at the overall GFS here on 12Z as well. They are obviously behind by 10 millibars, as this is currently 991 millimolars under pressure. They don't really get to that pressure till the next 30 hours, so they're basically 30 hours behind on the strength here. So 18Z is probably going to still be behind, and I think 0Z is going to be a little bit more accurate here. But again, the GFS wants to get to a 984 millibar, or sorry, 964 millibars, and it's not even like halfway through the MDR. So that's kind of showing you how this is kind of a 2017 type storm here, where we see a major before it even gets anywhere west of the Puerto Rico and Lesser Antilles. I'm not saying it's gonna go, it has to go like that, but I'm saying like it's not even past like this wise past Puerto Rico. Like it has not crossed this margin yet anywhere, and it's somehow a major. This is like a 2017 storm. Like it is. I'm not saying it's gonna be like a major hurricane and hit Puerto Rico, but it's gonna be a major hurricane before it even goes anywhere west. If you draw like a nice horizontal line like that, it's 959 millibars. And again, the GFS is 30 hours behind, so who knows how strong it can get here. This could very well become a very strong major hurricane here. Who knows? But 959 millibars, and oops, I accidentally just messed up my screen real quick. Okay, so the GFS, like I just said, GFS takes it just to the east here at Bermuda. So Bermuda may just spare an absolute bullet here. 961 millibars, so obviously a rather strong Category 3 hurricane. So it's going to really get super close to Bermuda, but most likely due to the Canadian ridge and the steering of the Bermuda high, taking it really like that. So the forcing like that from this other high, and I kind of keep it continuing to go northeastward here, but there you can obviously see it is kind of getting steered by this little overall area of high pressure right here, and it's gonna kind of keep it going like this. The southeasterlies, or the southerlies, kind of coming from the Bermuda High itself, and then we have a developing trough as well right here. That's kind of really keeping the storm with the initial vicinity gas. But we'll get deeper to that when we actually get to the actual shear values and the overall shear. First things first, let's now get a look here at the overall vorticity on the GFS, and there's an absolute monster vorticity-wise, really gathering its vorticity within the next 30 hours or so, and then just have it going absolutely crazy there. Obviously, a massive vorticity signature as it goes towards Bermuda. Like I just say, this could very well be an absolute monster system, and thankfully not going to affect any land. Let's now get a look at the overall winds, though. So again, the GFS wants to have it get to, I mean, they don't even have it getting to 70 until the next 50 hours or so. So strength-wise, the GFS is 50 hours behind, and they still want an absolute monster system here. 97 millibars, or sorry, 97 miles an hour. Let's go back to where it's getting 97 miles. 97. Where is that? There it is. 97.4. Like an absolute monster here. You can see the really strong counterclockwise flow like that, and you see those just fully wrapping around. And there you see those closer isobars showing, indicating a really strong core and overall eye wall. So that's an absolute beautiful storm here. And then the GFS continues to have it getting rather strong to 90 miles an hour. And let's go a little bit closer now into the actual overall Northwest Atlantic. I think will be a rather good one to look at. And it looks like 18Z is coming out. So let's go back to 12Z. And then looks like the GFS. I don't even think they're just gonna work here. Yeah, I'm guessing. Well, actually, it will work. And then obviously it passes Bermuda. There's Bermuda right there. 91 miles an hour, then getting up to 80 miles an hour, but you can see it just spares Bermuda. I mean, Bermuda just spares an absolute bullet. But yeah, definitely an interesting storm. Most likely going to be overall pretty strong. Looking at maybe a Category 3 hurricane. Let's take a look at the 200 millibar shear here, just to give you an overall idea why it's doing the way it is. So there you see an overall decent upper level anticyclone developing within the system right now. There you see the diverging looking, obviously, outflow channels within the system as of now, kind of preventing it from any threats of shear. As it continues, though, it's going to see an overall decent, again, amount of shear, vertical shear, a lot because of the overall strong amount of spin. Obviously, both in strong hurricanes, you see a ton of shear developing on the outer area to low pressure, and the reason why that amount of shear does not eat at the system itself is because of the upper level anticyclone. But there you see. Let's go back to a second here. You can kind of see an overall, looks like an overall ridge developing this way. That's gonna kind of keep it from going this way or anything like that. So as it continues to go further westward, you can kind of see this ridge somewhat kind of bends a little bit kind of this way, but still the kind of obviously southeasterlies here are really keeping it going just this way itself here to the Alpha Sea region. And again, as we now go further to the northwest, there's really absolutely very strong Canadian ridge right here. There you see an actual trough there, high pressure here, high pressure up here as well. You can kind of see it's going to really keep this storm, prevent just overall have a large area of shear and really strong dip in the jet stream here, really keeping the storm from going anywhere towards Newfoundland or even Nova Scotia. It's going to most likely, of course, go like this. Exactly what you're about to see. Let's just watch this track. Exactly what it does. And obviously, it's exactly why this is not going to be a threat to anywhere. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys later.